he's about to say. Here is Steve Kerr live on NBA TV.
I'm going to get right to the Draymond, and I'll address that, and then we can talk about the game. He is going to come back to practice on Thursday. He's been fined. He will not be suspended. I expect him to play Friday in our last preseason game and on opening night. We have spent the last week in deep discussions with all of our key figures in the organization, including Jordan and Draymond, of course, Steph, all of our players, Bob, myself. And I can tell you there have been a lot of conversations, individual one-on-one discussions, players-only discussions, everything that you can think of, all the different combinations that are possible to have in a conversation. We've had them. It's been an exhaustive process. We feel like we have a great feel for our team. You know, we've got a lot of continuity on this team. So Bob and I know our players extremely well. And we feel like this is the best way, after assessing everything, for us to move forward. It's never easy. No matter what decision you make in a situation like this, it's not going to be perfect. This is the biggest crisis that we've ever had since I've been coach here. It's really serious stuff. We're not perfect. You know, our team isn't perfect. Bob and I have definitely made our share of mistakes over the years, but we're going to lean on the experience that we have together, over the last 9 years, and trust that this is the best decision for our team. We have a lot of work to do, all of us, players, coaches, Bob in the front office, but we're committed to doing that work together and to making this a really successful season. I'm not going to talk about the fine, other than to say he has been fined, but I won't talk about the amount on that. But I'm willing to take any questions at this point.
Steve, you mentioned it is the biggest crisis the team has faced. Draymond did get suspended for a previous crisis, his incident with Kevin. Why wasn't he suspended for this? Every situation is totally different. And we don't look at everything in a vacuum and say, all right, well, now we did that here, we got to do that there. We would hope that we've developed enough equity, with the experience we have with our fan base, with the people watching over the last decade, that people can trust us, that we've really put a lot of thought into this decision. And as I said, we feel like this is the best way for us to move forward. The discussions have been really important, and in particular, those that involve Draymond and Jordan together. So when Bob and I assessed everything, we decided that this was our choice.
You seem to intimate there Draymond and Jordan have come together for a conversation with you guys.
Yes.
Was that maybe the biggest conversation within the last, week or whatever?
And a lot of big ones, but yeah. Jordan obviously had to be involved in this, and the players have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Steph has been working like crazy to try to figure out the best way to move forward. So he's been organizing some of these conversations. And Jordan and Draymond got together and had a great discussion that I think will help us move forward. And so after this entire week of everything and just assessing everything, this feels right.
Was that today? That conversation today,
no,
yesterday?
No, in the last couple of days.
Gotcha.
Do you consider this crisis over, or is there still a lot of work to do just emotionally?
I think there's work. I mean, we take great pride in what we've built here. The continuity, the culture, and there's no way around it. That culture has been damaged by this incident, and so you have to work to repair that. You have to find that vibe again every day.
the beauty of this game and what our team has been about is finding that joy in the game, but also within the team, with the relationships, with the goal, with the collective in mind. It's when it's right, like it was last year, like it's been many times, you can feel it. And when it's wrong, and you guys have watched us, there have been some times where it has been wrong. You can see that, you can feel that. So we got to work hard internally to try to regenerate the vibe that we need, because we know, we've lived this. You don't win championships on talent alone. It takes chemistry. It takes a collective will and a trust, and that has to be rebuilt right now. No, this is the job, and it's actually part of the job that I love. Now, not this incident, but being able to share these relationships with our players, especially when you're with someone for a long period of time, that's the fun part. But as we've talked about, just like with a family, there are times where you've got to get through some difficult stuff, and that's what we're going to have to do.
Steve, we obviously haven't talked to Jordan, but I wonder, we've seen him play well the other night, saw him practice the day of, practice late, when you guys have been out there. What can you share, if anything, about the way he has handled this situation? He's the guy who was front and center and in a challenging spot. His voice obviously mattered a lot here. What sort of tone did he set, and what part did he play, and where you guys got to today?
Well, I will let Jordan speak for himself when he speaks to you guys, which I think will be soon. But what I will say, my observation of Jordan is that he's an incredibly mature young guy. I think we've seen that on the basketball side with his work ethic and his ability to work through, his rough rookie season and go to the G League bubble and do everything to get where he is now. It takes a lot more than just talent. So this is a pretty special young guy. It was already reported after the incident, he worked out for another hour on his shot. Came out, whatever it was, a couple nights later, and, scored 15 straight points at one point. I think he's cool. Like not much phases him. And I think that's part of why we're going the way we're going, because we know that he's fine. We know that he's willing to move forward. He's willing to basically get back out on the floor with Draymond and go to work.
Coach, we know what Draymond has meant to this team on the floor, but he's had a number of incidents with his temper, this one being the most severe. How can you be confident that these incidents are at an end, particularly when he didn't face any formal consequences for what happened here?
Well, it's fair. Any criticism that we face here is fair. Draymond, I would say, you guys all know from covering him for a long time, he sort of, lives on the edge. And as far as, his spot on our basketball team, he's always right in the thick of everything. And a couple times in his career, he has crossed the line. He crossed the line with Kevin, whatever year that was, and he crossed the line the other night in a worse fashion, much worse fashion. So, as I said, I would hope that everybody would respect the fact that we feel like we know Draymond and this entire group very well, and that while this is not an easy decision, we feel like this is the best decision we can make going forward. And I trust Draymond that he will, stay on that edge and not go over it.
You spoke about having to rebuild, the culture and the trust, that I guess it's kind of a follow-up to that, because Draymond does bring a lot of fire. is there any concern or thought on how he brings that fire and how that might now be received if, players see him, especially new players that haven't been here for his entire career?
I think that's a huge part of this. We've got all these young guys out there. They don't know him, and they, the vets, they understand Draymond. The young guys are just getting to know him, and Draymond has to build relationships with those guys, and that's a big part of this process. And I will let Draymond speak for himself on that, because it's really a question for him. But as the coach, as the one who presides over all this, I am going to pay close attention to our young players and how they look at Draymond and the mentoring, and because it's crucial for our team this year and going forward.